But the Templars worshipped secret gods. They reached great power and wealth in France. These Templars were secret orders of knights, and it wasn't just the Templars in France, such as with the Knights of Malta. These secret societies worshipped non-Christian deities and had certain secret rites that led to the creation of the Rosicrucians.
They worship non-Christian deities. Look at that. The Baphomet. She's a lonely girl in a lonely world. She don't know who to trust. 'Cause these bitches be hating and these niggas be fake. Now she feeling outdated, but she met a real player that's gonna treat her nice. She's a lonely girl in this lonely world. What it is, family, I'm back with part 2 of this video. I decided I'm gonna keep using my camera because the webcam, I like the audio on my camera better than the webcam. The webcam is still good. I'm gonna use it for like certain videos. I'm gonna start streaming maybe. Hey, if y'all want me to start streaming gaming videos, I could do that. You feel me? I could do that ASAP. No Rocky. You feel me? So yeah. Shit, I could play Call of Duty. Shit, I probably start streaming regardless. You feel me? But if there's people in here that, you feel me, that is interested in that, let me know. You feel me? Cause I'll do this sooner than later. But let's get back into this video, cause there's some good shit. Venus is very important. I'm not gonna say why, but that's very important. Like, little stuff like that matters. Little stuff like that is symbolism for other things. And you won't truly know why things were created unless you know the symbolism behind it. Because when things first started, we wasn't communicating with words. We was communicating with images, because the brain learns way faster when it looks at images. It takes in way more information when it looks at images. That's why they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. You dig what I'm saying?
We have many depictions of Christ being presented before the Jewish high priest Caiaphas. The Jewish hat is the ancient origin of the Phrygian hat, and there are several different rankings. Why is a Jewish high priest, the same priest who accused Jesus of blasphemy and organized a plot to kill Jesus, wearing a mitre hat before the development of Catholicism, with a lunar crescent? In the old paintings of St. Nicholas, you can clearly see the symbol for the Templar's cross. This is very important to note for later. This hat of St. Nicholas is a pagan hat. His staff is also similar to Druidic staffs, the staff of Moses. It is also in the shape of a spiral. This same staff is also called a crozier. It is the coat of arms of Basil, or Baal, which is the origins of the Rosicrucians. They are also connected with this.
So if you didn't watch my last video, you should watch it, because yes, go watch the first one, the part 1 of this. Because if you ain't watched it, you're gonna be lost. But I was talking about how the origins of Christian was from the Amanita muscaria mushroom and all that. Now that still can be true, but then when the people who ruled the Roman Empire, when they was coming into power and started ruling, they started spreading their beliefs. So it's a possibility that when they were spreading their beliefs, they used these traditions and changed them in a way that fit their ideals. You feel what I'm saying? So no longer was it the same concept. It wasn't even the same ritual anymore. It was something else. Maybe it wasn't even a ritual to begin with, and then they made it a ritual. That could be also a possibility. You feel me? Let's continue.
But for now, We're told that St. Nicholas was just an early Christian saint who would preach the word of Jesus. Quote, sell what you own and give the money to the poor. He supposedly used his whole inheritance to assist the needy, sick, and suffering. So he was essentially an odd fellow from 2,000 years ago. Which, remember, we must also consider the altered timeline as well when it comes to this history. The story is that during this time, Christians were being persecuted. It's always the same divide and conquer tactic, when the elites were the one in control of the new presented religion. He was born of a wealthy family and a Templar. He wasn't persecuted for his beliefs. But this is the story they tell us, because it would be strange if he was connected with the same elites who altered the Julian calendar, right? After his supposed prison sentence for practicing Christianity.
You hear how he said they altered the calendar? This is the same thing that I was just talking about. When certain people came into power, they started changing things to fit their ideals. So, you can't look at Christmas as something that has been stayed the same over all this time, when different people came into power and different people wanted different things to come from their rulership. You need to figure out what these certain entities wanted while they was in rulership, because then that will tell you what type of rituals Christmas, Thanksgiving, all these things are. You will realize what they actually are, because you're starting at the starting point of where it came from. You're not just listening to your father and mother tell you that Santa is real and Santa gives you gifts while you sleep because you've been a good boy.
He goes and attends the Council of Nicaea? Oh, and get this, he died on December 6th and was buried in an ancient temple dedicated to Artemis. Talk about synchronicities. So they built a Catholic Christian church on top of a pagan ancient temple. Remember, we're in Turkey, there are many others. There's another large temple called the Temple of Venus at Aphrodisias, which is not that far away.
Ah, the bench press. A symbol of fitness, unchanged for decades, until...
There's definitely more to cover with the pagan origins, but for now, let's go over some strange stories involving St. Nicholas. One of the most famous stories is that back in the day, parents couldn't afford to make payments, and so they would sell their children into prostitution because the daughters couldn't get married without a dowry. Basically, it's an insurance policy for the female, which makes no sense because back then women had no rights. So why would the lady even need this? It's really just an offering to another family for an incentive to marry, which is strange because a Catholic bishop is going around and decides to save these 3 daughters from prostitution by giving them a bag of gold? I always feel weird about random philanthropists in history, and in the modern day. Why would someone go out and do this when you know how many families were going through the same thing? So basically, Santa, or St. Nicholas, was giving away free bags of gold. He would come in the night before the girl became of age, would throw a bag of gold through the man's window, and then the daughter had the dowry to be married. This happened for the first and second daughter, and then the third daughter had her bag of gold thrown down the chimney, and it landed in a shoe.
So this is the same story, just re-rocked, like I said. Instead of Amanita muscaria mushrooms, it was a sack of gold.
This is how St. Nicholas became known as the patron saint of prostitutes. In Benjamin Britten's St. Nicholas from 1948, we get presented the life of Nicholas, in which during his birth, he seems to have had the ability to speak and yelled, "God be glorified," as he exited his mother's womb. There's also a very dark story associated with St. Nicholas that involves little children being cut up and prepared to be eaten. 3 small children were exploring the fields, and as they worked and played, they began to wander off into the town. It was beginning to get late, and the sun was going down. The children were hungry and lost, and they came to a lit butcher shop. They knocked on the door and said, "We're lost and hungry. May we eat and sleep?" "Oh yes," came to reply. "Do come in." As the children entered, a butcher takes a sharp knife, cuts them up, and puts them in a large salting tub to be pickled. 7 years passed by, and it would seem that the butcher was actually trying to sell their meat as ham. But St. Nicholas, who was
You heard that shit? What the fuck?
wandering nearby, noticed that it was not ham, but actually the flesh of young human remains.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's why I told y'all to watch part 1,
He
bro.
then
That's why I told y'all to watch part 1, because I warned y'all, bro. If y'all don't want to hear certain things, bro, don't watch this video. If you don't want your belief system to be challenged, if you don't want to hear gruesome, horrible things done to children, to people, if you don't, click off the video. If all that bothers you, just click off the video, cause this is you feel me, as real as it's gonna get.
resurrected the 3 children, and there's even a famous painting of this, which seems to be some alchemical reference. St. Nicholas himself was said to have become an orphan when his parents got sick and died. He went to go live with his uncle, who was a monk in a monastery, so he was taught about Jesus, and then decided to become a monk when growing up. He wanted to give away his wealth, and for some reason decided to be sneaky when doing this. This is where the tradition of filling stockings come from. He would fill socks with gold for the dowries of young women, with a third daughter having her shoe filled with gold that came from a chimney. He also seemed to have magical abilities right after birth. As a newborn, he could stand on 2 feet without support, and he stood for like 3 hours or something. The story is that St. Nicholas was just an amazing man doing all these nice things in the name of Jesus, and that is why he was imprisoned. The guards were trying to convince Nicholas to deny Jesus, but he would not budge. And instead, he taught them of Jesus. He trusted that Jesus would save him and prayed for all the other Christians who were being prosecuted to pray during this time.
The symbols they doing is showing them that they are Masons. When I do it, I'm not showing y'all that I'm a Mason. I'm showing y'all mudras. I'm showing y'all how these mudras make the energy in your body circulate a certain way. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
This led to Constantine becoming emperor, and Nicholas became free because all of a sudden, Christianity became the official religion. So essentially, Santa Claus, or Saint Nicholas, was attending the Council of Nicaea, which was the creation of the Catholic Church. This entire event gave the Church massive amounts of power in the hands of the political elite, leading to the creation of the Vatican, controlled by the Phoenician Jesuits. This is a huge topic, and many Christians and Catholics are touchy about this subject, so we'll have to leave it for another video. But the reason I bring it up is because they were actually arguing about Arianism, which has to do with whether there's a distinction between Jesus and God. Is he all of God, or is he part God but also flesh? Just weird arguing over small doctrine, but basically Santa Claus or St. Nicholas was at this meeting when the Bishop Arius, who were one of the early Christian denominations who believed in things that the council did not agree with, and so Nicholas literally punches this guy or heathen in the face at the council. Weirdly, in another story, this is supposed to be the reason he goes to prison again, so he gets sent to prison multiple times? The story doesn't really add up, but just thought it was strange that he was connected to the entire political and state creation of Christianity, from an economical and military standpoint. So St. Nicholas is trying to go around converting all these pagans into Christianity as the story goes, and that the saint even confronted the governor and all these people to just accept Jesus. Again, there's this theme of secretness for some reason and giving away his wealth, which doesn't really make that much sense. He was born wealthy, became an orphan, then became a monk, went to prison, then came out, is still wealthy, and still giving out presents and still being secretive? His tomb is built on ancient pagan temples to Artemis and Venus, which is very weird because he has many stories connected with the Virgin Mary. Oh, and his tomb is said to have a sweet odor, and that there's this white liquid that comes from his bone that the church would actually collect and sell as magical mana that was for curing all diseases. So 3
Hell no, what the fuck?
daughters are saved from prostitution. 3 boys are saved from cannibalism. What else? Well, there are actually multiple versions of that story with the boys, where the parents actually sit and eat their own children without even knowing until Nicholas intervenes, which is interesting Saturn symbolism for later. Christmas trees are Leyland cypress. St. Nicholas is actually known to be an exorcist. He was capable of taming demons as he would carry the Book of Gospels in hand. He was called upon a village in Placoma for chopping down a cypress because it was discovered that demons would occupy these trees that were used for pagan worship. This is the true origin of the Christmas tree and its connection to Santa, an exorcism event. There's another story on one night where he saved the city from famine through psychic powers, in which he psychically located a merchant through remote viewing who was about to set sail for Egypt with a shipment of grain. Nicholas appeared to the merchant.
If he just said he used remote viewing. Remote viewing is being able to see something by, so like, say I'm in this house right now. I use my awareness to see something that is beyond my physical perception, my physical senses. The CIA declassified information on remote viewing, meditation, and things of these natures. These stories have these same things in them of people using these type of techniques. But it seems as though these techniques was only used by people who were of a certain stature back then. That's just something that should be noted, you know? Look up what remote viewing is, so you understand what it is. And if you don't understand what it is, then that'll open your mind. That'll broaden your perception on life in general. If you don't know what that is and you learn it right now, so go figure out what that is. You feel me? Then come back to this video.
In a dream and bribed him with 3 gold coins. There's the 3 of the Trinity again. Remember, that is what they were arguing about in the Council of Nicaea, which is also the concept of incarnation, the process in which God becomes flesh. But yeah, so he's in this merchant's dream, so he can also travel into people's heads or inner realms. And then he gave the merchant 3 gold coins, and he was also sleeping 3 countries away. The merchant then delivered the shipment of grain as asked and saved Lycia from famine. So is Saint Nicholas some magical Christ-like figure? Did he even actually exist? According to mainstream history, after his death he was embalmed, and his remains were eventually moved 1,000 years later to Lower Italy, Bari, by big fans of Saint Nicholas, who just so happened to be the bishops behind the Crusades and the Templars. This is a shadowy subject that's not easily explained briefly. However, what we are told is that these remains were secretly moved to Italy in the 11th century. And we know this because of the Feast of St. Nicholas on December 6th celebrates the arrival of the partial remains of St. Nicholas by Italian sailors, or pirates. But as you look deeper, it was actually given to the Saracens for protection. Saracen is a Latin term of unknown original meaning, but it was synonymous with Muslim and or the Arabs of the Ottoman Empire. The Semitic root sariq means thief or marauder, which is the typical Christian view of these people during these times, as they were the main enemy of the Catholic Church, as with Constantinople versus the Ottoman Empire. Yet, what we find is that the Saracens brought St. Nicholas as an artifact for the families in Italy where they had to decide St. Nicholas Empire.
You see that melanated god, not a slave, right? Obviously, you can tell by his attire. Black people history is more than just slavery.
Yet, what we find is that the Saracens brought St. Nicholas as an artifact for the families in Italy where they had to decide whether moving it to Bari or Venice. They chose Bari and erected a church for the remains. But this gets stranger because, well, one, there are thousands of these St. Nicholas churches around the world, hundreds in England alone. But the original one was actually created for the partial remains of a saint. And Pope Urban II was there for the tomb's consecration, who was one of the main French original Templar leaders of the Crusades. Templars, for some reason, are thought of as cool or something by some modern Christians. People literally get the Templar cross tattooed on them as if they're proud to be a part of this heritage of the Templars.
See, this what I'm saying, yo. People be doing things and they don't even know the origins of them. Stop doing things when you don't know what it is. Enlighten yourself. Enlighten yourself. Enlighten yourself. Enlighten yourself. Symbols and shapes have meanings. Symbols and shapes hold vibrations. Don't just put anything on your body.
See, I'm not too sure about all that, and it's also the origins of Freemasonry, as many lodges openly admit this. Some see them in a good light. They come into the story because when discussing Santa, we're discussing the origin of religion to a certain degree.
Seen that pyramid? Y'all know about the pyramid scheme? That's the same concept.
It's not very well known, but the Templars worshipped secret gods. They reached great power and wealth in France. These Templars were secret orders of knights, and it wasn't just the Templars in France, such as with the Knights of Malta. These secret societies worshipped non-Christian deities and had certain secret rites that led to the creation of the Rosicrucians.
They worship non-Christian deities. Look at that. The Baphomet. Oh my God. Alright, so you see the titties. You see it has the horns. It has the hooves. It has man arms. It's a I wanna say it's a chimera. It's an entity that has multiple entities in one. It's very demonic. It's an entity that confuses you. And people should know that